Good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here in Orlando this morning. We're here to offer help. I think most of you are aware of what's gone on the last couple of years. You had a state attorney here who decided that she was going to carry out policies where she would not prosecute certain cases. Unfortunately, that violates our Constitution. State attorneys, they take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, and they do not get a veto over certain laws. That is not appropriate for this branch of government. State attorneys, they enforce and carry out the law, and if our legislature and our governor have executed heightened criminal penalties, a state attorney does not have the ability to say, I'm not going to do that. So I think everybody's aware the governor suspended the state attorney here. Supreme Court, the judicial system upheld that and sent a message. You take an oath, you have a job to do, and we're going to make sure you do that job. Well, the state attorney's back, and already we have some new policies being pushed out where she's saying there are certain types of cases she's not going to take. Just last week alone, she turned down 90 cases from the sheriff's office here. That's not acceptable, and we're going to be watching. Now, in this policy, she says that she doesn't have the resources, and that's why a lot of these non-prosecutions are going to take place. Well, here this morning, we're here to help. We're going to tell her the words that no Soros prosecutor wants to hear. We're from the AG's office, and we're here to give you help. So the cavalry's here. We've got a tiger team of prosecutors that we're going to be sending to help out. We hope she will take that help. We want to get rid of that backlog, those thousands of cases, and we want to make sure that dangerous people are put behind bars. We want to see bad guys go away. The people of Orlando, they don't deserve to be in an unsafe situation, and unfortunately in the past that has happened. Part of why the governor suspended her, there were numerous cases where you had serious felons that were let go very quickly. You've got a very aggressive felony case, they're let back on the street, and weeks later murders take place. People are losing their lives because of non-prosecution policies. That cannot happen. We owe it to the people of Orlando to make sure that we are enforcing rule of law and that we are backing up our law enforcement. Our law enforcement put their lives on the line every single day and night to ensure that bad people go away. So what happens when what message do you send when all of a sudden you let somebody go after they've committed a serious offense, or you decide not to prosecute a serious offense? What message does that send to our law enforcement who put their neck out every single day? So we're not going to let that happen. We're here to help. We're watching, and we're going to make sure that we are doing everything we can to give the resources and make sure that we're prosecuting these cases. So I'm excited to be joined here this morning. We've got Orange County Sheriff John Mina. We've got the Florida Statewide Prosecutor Nick Cox, who's kind of in his final lap with our office, and we're going to miss him, but appreciate everything he's done for the state. We have several chiefs with us: Chief Grisham from Belle Island, Chief DeShriver from Edgewood, Chief Manuel from Maitland, Chief Graham from Winter Garden, and Chief Metzger from UCF. We want to help these guys. We want to enforce rule of law, and we're going to send the cavalry down here to make sure that we're putting bad dudes away. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to Sheriff John Mina.
Thank you, Attorney General, and we will all want to thank you for this additional assistance here in Orange County. I think by providing these attorneys to this circuit, this will really help us clear that backlog of cases. I also want to thank the State Attorney Worrell for reaching out and asking for help. I know that's not an easy thing to do, but this is the right thing for Orange County and Osceola County and the Ninth Circuit here. We need to clear this backlog. We need to start working together to accept these cases, some very serious, and this is all about protecting the victims. All right, and as Sheriff of Orange County, I want to make sure that our residents and our victims know that we are fighting for them, and I want to make sure that no victim is ever forgotten. Again, big thanks to the Attorney General and his staff for helping out here in Orange County so that no victims are forgotten. Thanks.
I'll call up our statewide prosecutor, Nick Cox.
Good morning. I am very, very proud, General, to be here. Very, very proud to be here with these prosecutors. These are 4 of the prosecutors that we're going to be sending over to help the Ninth Circuit State Attorney get through their what's reported to be a 13,000 case backlog. This is something that we're very proud to do, very happy to do. You know, when you have another prosecutor who's struggling and cases aren't being prosecuted, cases aren't even being reviewed for prosecution, it's time to worry, especially when there's 13,000 of them. And so we are very, very happy to be doing this. By the way, this isn't anything new for the Office of Statewide Prosecution. We have done this in the past for other state attorneys' offices. In fact, we did it here several years ago when the matter came up where Governor Scott removed State Attorney Ayala, former State Attorney Ayala, on the death penalty cases. And when those were assigned to the Fifth Circuit State Attorney, Brad King, we actually reached out to him and said, do you need a little help? Because you just picked up 23 death penalty cases, and we were assigned about 7 or 8 of them. So this is nothing new for us. We've done the same thing down in Key West. When they were facing some problems down there, it wasn't anything like this. They reached out to us and said, would you please come help us? We're having a problem having enough lawyers down here to prosecute cases. So for about 3.5 months, we went down there every day with 3 or 4 people. I went down and spent about 5 weeks there myself, handling everything from misdemeanors to capital murder cases. You know, the lawyers at Statewide Prosecution, we've been doing this a while. We generally have lawyers. We hire people that have been prosecuting for multiple years, and so they know what they're doing. They know how to do their job, and this is just an example of the folks who are going to be helping to do this. And so we look forward to working with the state attorney's office to try to clear this backlog, because as the sheriff said, if we don't get this done, it's dangerous. It's a public safety issue. And so we're glad to do anything we can to help Orlando avoid the public safety issue. And like the General said, put the bad guys away. Thank you, General.
So we've got great prosecutors across the state, great state attorneys, and everybody, you know, should share the same mission, which is making Florida the safest state in the country to raise a family. And if people need help, they should raise their hand and ask. I'll say, look, the life of a prosecutor is a tough one. They're not the highest paid positions, and the hours are not a cakewalk. You're working around the clock, and you're doing it because you're a public servant. And the people of Florida, you know, they don't want excuses. They want you to get the job done, and that's our duty, and that's why we're here today. So with that, take any questions. Got time for a few?
Well, will the attorneys who are going to be doing this be answering to you or to the state attorney?
Well, they first of all, they've got to report up through that office to actually be accepted in. You know, she might not accept them. I hope she will, but she might not. But otherwise, it'll be a collaborative effort. You know, we'll take direction where we can, but let's put it this way: we're not going to be directed to not prosecute something that should be prosecuted. Anything you'd add to that?
No, it would be something, we will be acting under her authority. These are Fifth Circuit cases. So we will try to determine, you know, how these cases would typically be handled in the Ninth Circuit. But at the same time, we're going to bring to bear our opinions and our judgment on the cases, working with the state attorney's office. But, you know, these folks will probably end up being cross-sworn by the state attorney so that they are operating under her authority, and that's how it'll work. But I will be maintaining very close contact both with the state attorney and with our prosecutors to make sure everything's going smoothly.
She's also asked for 13 additional attorneys to help. Is it 4 that's going to be helping?
No, it'll be more than 4. I think these guys for being here today, but we'll have a handful more as well.
I mean, do you think 13?
I don't know that we're going to give them 13 out of the gate. You know, we're continuing to ask for more resources statewide. We'll see what we can do here. I have a feeling, you know, our team is going to, you know, pack a heavy punch. And, you know, if there's truly an additional need for resources, if that's truly an accurate statement, then we'll look at helping her out further.
The state attorney in the Fifth Circuit put a similar policy in place in 2021. Did your office help during that time?
I know the state attorney here says that, but I'm not aware of any policy there that explicitly lists out offenses that are not going to be prosecuted, which include serious felonies, which include gun-related offenses. I'm not aware of that. I think that's a misnomer. That's not true.
Is that something? Have you been in contact with the Fifth Circuit?
Sure have.
And what are they saying?
The Fifth Circuit has not turned away any cases.
And while we're on the subject, I mean, there was a grand jury that was convened in Polk County, I believe, looking into the state attorney Royal. Where does that stand now, and are you able to say whether or not that case is closed, no charges, or is it still open?
I don't think I'm allowed to talk about it.
I don't know. I wasn't assigned to it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And in terms of the backlog of cases, has your office done an analysis of all the circuits? Like, how does Orange and Osceola County compare to the other circuits?
Yeah, do you have anything there?
Well, let me go back to the previous question. When you were asking about the Fifth Circuit, I have spoken with Mr. I apologize. I have spoken with Mr. Gladson about it, and the difference there is reports here have that there's over 13,000 cases. When I spoke to Mr. Gladson last, he has a few hundred. So they don't have the problem. They don't have the need for the assistance. And they've been able to keep up with it. I think one of the key things, if I might say, General, I think one of the key things that I saw with Mr. Gladson's policy is that his policy encourages contact with law enforcement and conversations with law enforcement. You know, as a prosecutor, I don't know what's going on the streets like these guys do. And so I need to listen to them. And so when you're dealing with these non-arrest cases, I think that's the key thing with Mr. Gladson's policy is that it encourages involvement with law enforcement. You were asking me, I apologize.
I'm wondering if the Attorney General's office has done an analysis in terms of backlogs of cases. How does this circuit compare to other circuits, and why are we scrutinizing this circuit?
May I, General?
Sure, go ahead.
I can't say that I've done any sort of a research like that. I don't know if the AG's has. The one thing I am aware of in these last several days trying to get ready to come over here is there's no problem anywhere else like there is here. I mean, over 13,000 cases, that's a remarkable number. That is an absolutely remarkable number. And I cannot imagine that was something that was just built up, you know, in the last month. I mean, that took a little bit of time, but that's a remarkable number, and it needs to be dealt with. It doesn't need to be set aside. It needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, we have done analysis. I mean, there's a disproportionately high backlog here. We're trying to gather more data. That's why the governor's office has instituted policies over the last couple of years to collect more data from various circuits and jurisdictions so that we can analyze and figure out, you know, where might there be intentionality behind the non-prosecutions as opposed to, you know, true prosecutorial discretion, which is essential to our criminal justice system. Prosecutors need to have some flexibility and the opportunity to, plea things down and to recognize that not all cases are created equal. There are unusual circumstances here and there. But that does not mean a prosecutor gets to make a blanket policy statement to say, I'm not going to bring these cases. That is not constitutional.
Sheriff, can you give a real world example of where we have a situation where there's a crime, where there's a person who's considered dangerous, but there wouldn't be an arrest?
So we just had one recently that was rejected by the state attorney's office. There was a man lurking around a karate studio. Parents and the people from the karate studio took note. They called us. He was trespassed because he doesn't have any kids there. Well, he returned. Again, that's trespass after warning, lurking around kids. We weren't there. We didn't witness it. He had already left. So they rejected the case. And their answer to that is, well, go get a warrant. But the judges in this circuit won't sign those misdemeanor warrants. There are certain cases that law enforcement has to witness in order to make a physical arrest. So our options are file with the state attorney's office, which we've been doing for 35 years since I've been in law enforcement, or go get a warrant from a judge. And it's been made clear in this circuit that the judges won't review those misdemeanor warrants. So, you know, we met with her back on February 20th in Maitland, expressed our concerns, specifically those concerns, and those concerns were never addressed. She went forward with the policy. Once the policy was implemented, we asked her to pause on the policy so we can try and get together and address these concerns, and she refused. We're in the process of trying to meet with her again to talk about this because law enforcement is stuck in the middle. If she's not going to accept the cases and the judges won't review certain cases, then our victims are the ones left suffering, and that's why we want to protect our victims. We want to make sure that no victims are forgotten in any case.
And could this be something that you work with the chief judge on as well to try to have them sign those warrants?
And I've had several conversations with the chief judge about that. Again, we're trying to get all the parties together, but in the meantime, our cases keep getting denied and rejected, and there's victims that are not getting the justice that they want or deserve.
General Uthmeier, Spectrum News, Orlando, and Tampa. I have a three-pronged question for you. Number one.
I think the rules of evidence bar that, but go ahead.
Number one, can you walk us through the timeline, sir, if you can, on when the backlog started to become evident? Was it with the most recent state attorney before Monique Morale? Or before that?
My understanding is the backlog has risen over time. Yeah, I think State Attorney Ayala began the backlog. The last state attorney, or the current state attorney, who was the prior state attorney, certainly didn't do anything to help it. And I know the governor looked at that. He laid out in an executive order his suspension decision, and it wasn't like that was a two-sentence order. It was pretty well documented that there were systematic approaches on non-prosecution that led to that backlog. That's not acceptable.
Part two, what do you say to critics who say this is politically motivated? You have law enforcement here saying, we've offered the help has been turned down by Monique Morale's office, but people will still ask and say that this is politically motivated. To those critics, you say what?
This is not politically motivated. We're not running around the state looking for people to remove from office. We're looking for people that aren't doing their job. And as a prosecutor, your job is simple. Put bad people away and keep Floridians safe. It's that simple. If you're willing to do that, I got no beef with you. I want to help you. I want to help everybody. Democrat, Republican, other, if you are a prosecutor, your job is to put bad people away. And that's what we got to do.
Part three, what is your expectation of Monique Morale right now?
I hope, like I said, I hope she takes the help. We're here to help. I don't know. She might not. I hope she will. We can't force her to, but we heard the plea. If indeed resources are the real reason for these non-prosecution policies, we are going to come to help, and we will continue finding ways to help until we've gotten through this backlog.
And separate topic, what is your response to the Florida House that you diverted $10 million from a legal settlement to fight Amendment 3?
All right, here's the thing. Hope Florida's got a great mission. Hope Florida, has saved thousands, has helped thousands of people in this state. The First Lady's been a great champion for it. I know the press wants to spin this as her organization. You've got an independent foundation that's got its own board. It's a not-for-profit, and it made its own decision to give generous support to other not-for-profits that, by the way, already work with the entity and share that same mission, helping moms, helping families, protecting our kids. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And if some of those organizations were already active in the fight to oppose a dangerous constitutional amendment that would have allowed recreational marijuana to be used anywhere, there's also not a problem with that. Let's remember what that amendment did. That amendment was going to allow marijuana to be used not just in the privacy of your own home, but anywhere in public. Restaurants, parks, theme parks, probably even schools. That put our kids in jeopardy. And some of these nonprofits that are out there that fight against drug abuse, they've seen what I've seen in other states that have allowed recreational marijuana. They see ER visits for kids going up threefold in some jurisdictions where recreational is allowed. And some of those are jurisdictions that don't even allow it in public, but it gets there anyway. It's no secret. I was very, very out there on the fight against Amendment 3. I think Amendment 3 challenged the way of life that we've worked very hard to protect here in Florida. It challenged our small businesses. It challenged our families. And at the end of the day, as our statewide prosecutor here knows, I'm all about the kids. And if you're going to put our kids in danger, you're going to have a problem with me. So Hope Florida didn't do anything wrong. I'm proud of the work they do. These other nonprofit organizations that have helped, against the Amendment 3 effort, we should be thankful to them, to all of them. They stepped up in a big way, and because of that, we won.
General Uthmeier, you admitted that this backlog of cases is not a new thing here in the Ninth Judicial Circuit. So why did former State Attorney Andrew Bain ask for help?
Say that one more time.
You admitted the backlog of cases is nothing new for this circuit. So I'm wondering why former State Attorney Andrew Bain didn't ask for help.
Well, my understanding is he was working hard to crack down on the backlog, and he was prosecuting a lot of cases that had not been prosecuted before. In fact, I'm seeing cases now where decisions are being made to not prosecute that I know for a fact that state attorney would have prosecuted. So, she's saying resources are her excuse, and we're going to highlight that. If that's true, accept the help.
Well, what's the next step?
We got to run, guys. We got a tight schedule, and I want to make sure we have time for one very important thing. Our statewide prosecutor is on his last leg here with our office. He's been here in the AG's office about 15 years, right? Yes, sir. He started his career as a prosecutor over in Hillsborough County in the state attorney's office there. He's decided he wants to finish his career back home. and we're going to miss him, but I'll tell you one thing, this is not a Soros prosecutor right here. This guy has done the Lord's work to protect our families in Florida. We've really stepped out there, against the child abuse, against the predators. That theme will continue, will be further prioritized under my tenure, but I thank him for his time here. If you spend even a day or two getting to know the prosecutors in our statewide office, you can see that there's a great culture, and I can tell where it comes from. There's a passion here behind this work. They love what they do, and they get great results because of that passion, and I'm hopeful that we can share that passion with other circuits, especially here if the help is accepted. We have a tradition in the office. We've got something called a Back the Blue Award that my predecessor really loved, and I'm growing to embrace as well, to honor the heroes in the criminal justice system, sometimes law enforcement, sometimes not, but people that have done the Lord's work to back our law enforcement, to help them enforce rule of law and keep our state safe, strong, and free. So with that, I'd like to award, and you get a nicer plaque, but just for today, get Nick Cox the official Back the Blue Award before he
Thank you, General.
takes off, and it's been a pleasure. So that's all we got time for today. Thanks, everybody.